opportunity for people to ask senior councillors and senior officers just about any questions you want to. So what we have here this evening is a mixture of councillors who are all members of the Council's Cabinet. The years gone by, they would have been chairing various committees, but now we have a Cabinet, and senior officers. The distinction between the two, of course, being that councillors are part-time. We set the policy for the authority, and then we scrutinise how well that policy is working and how well it's being implemented.
Across Thurrock are changing. Thurrock is no different to any other council across the country. There's 9,000 more people living in Thurrock now than there was in 2006. It's a changing community. In recent history, it shows that the communities, the people that move in come from Ireland, India, Vietnam, East Europe, and recently the African population. But this pleases me because this means that people are choosing to come to Thurrock to live, to work, and to bring up their children. So I think that it's a great opportunity for us. A few years ago, cohesion was a problem here in Thurrock, and the audit committee, they picked up on that we hadn't quite got community cohesion right, and so that we were given some targets to do that. That's a community leadership role. I intend to make sure that here in Thurrock that never ever happens, that we have real good community cohesion. And so here tonight, on Friday the 27th of January 2012, we will be holding another Holocaust Memorial service. But before that, we hope to send a group of pupils back over to visit Auschwitz, to really learn from the mistakes. Earlier this year, I took through Cabinet a simple equality scheme programme. I took it through Cabinet and then it went through the Council as well. And this is a statutory requirement, so we will be measured against that. And every single one of the officers here will be measured, and it will become public, the measurement. We have to achieve to make sure that our communities live within equality, and that we're delivering for all sectors of the community. It doesn't matter about race or age or disability, we need to make sure that we're delivering for all of our communities. I popped over, I see them, and I went away. There were sack races, there was football, there was egg and spoon, but this was about a community event. This wasn't a council event, this was the community. They set it up themselves, they ran it themselves, but the community came and it ran over time. So the big lunch, these are things that happened in Grays Park. There was hundreds of people that were there, and people just came, had a picnic right across the communities of Thurrock. So I think that in Thurrock, yes we are. And just to finish, this event tonight, this is really about community engagement and cohesion. It's at the heart of everything that we do. And just as a good news thing to show how much these were, we had a group of mums come to the children one that said there was no play equipment. We signposted them to Veolia. Tomorrow they cut the grass on the Brennan Road field, and they've worked with all the council officers and with Veolia, and they're going to get that play equipment. So if you do need stuff, these are the events that matter. These are the events that show that our council is listening to its community.
You have to roll it out across the whole borough. It's not a huge amount of money. It's £2,000 per councillor, which just gives members the opportunity to get done immediately some of those niggling little problems that sometimes take far too long. However, it was taken out of the budget at the very last. I was determined that we should at least make some progress with it as quickly as possible. So the criteria that I looked at was just finding 3 wards. One that would be a ward that was entirely held by Conservative councillors, one ward that was entirely held by Labour councillors, and one that was a mixed ward. Therefore, I just picked, it was entirely at random, Chafford, North Chafford and Stifford for Conservative, Tilbury Chads, which was Labour, and Stamford East, which is the ward that has 2 Conservatives and 1 Labour. We're now putting in place a scheme to just assess how successful that is and how different types of areas work and counties of different rights have to speak to each other, how different people have different ways of talking to the community before they spend money. So,
how does the community get involved in having that money spent? Having a say in how that money is spent?
The expectation is that the councils spend it in consultation with their forwards. So different councils will build up different ways of doing it themselves. What's happening certainly in Stamford East at the moment, I'm speaking to one of the councillors there today, last week where they were talking about how the forum can be spent money. Before the money can be spent, there is a check and balance which says this is the consultation that we've been through and this is what the community say. So, in a way, it's making sure that members engage more with their communities.
The point about the way the council appears outside is one of the points we're trying to address. And there's probably 4 or 5 things that are involved with that. Firstly, I think there are existing mechanisms. So ward councillors hold, most of them hold regular surgeries in places that are reasonably well publicised through the libraries, etc. So if there is an issue to raise with the ward councillor, the councillor surgeries, let me finish. Ward councillors are one way of doing that. We have recognised that part of the problem we've got with the community forums, there's 19 of them, is actually there's too many for us to service through the officer structure in the way that you might expect. And we have been talking with the members about the idea of community councils. Well, let me finish. Well, we have some of those across the borough as a place. Okay? And the idea of that is to bring issues out from the community forums. So community forums will bring issues to that. All local residents will, because they'll have public meetings. At those meetings, there will be the local councillors, but also a lead senior manager for the council. So somebody who's at head of service level, and their job will be to make sure that every question actually gets answered and gets responses to. I mean, this meeting, wasn't happening. We now have the council.
And often they're not complaints, but for some reason they often fairly straightforward questions go down the complaints procedure, and so what happens, and that becomes a little bureaucratic and just sort of wheels on, when quite frankly if a prompt answer has been given in the first place, the whole thing would have been cleared up quite simply. And I think
the second time third time we've had more councillors turning up, so it's good to see Mike. I'm surprised, Mike, that there is any confusion at all over what the council's stance on this is, because I think I have said it at least 8 times publicly since last September, when the current government published its options. I think we put out something like 10 press releases where we also said what the view is. So I'll be absolutely clear. Until such a time as we have either the tolls on the bridge abandoned totally, or we move to free flow tolling, either of which the council highways experts estimate will ease the capacity problems by about 20%. And we have a resolution to the problems of junction 3031, which will free up something like another 20% capacity. Until then, we shouldn't even consider any further crossing anywhere in Thurrock. When we reach that stage, it may be appropriate then to take stock and to have a look at the necessity of another crossing. But we shouldn't only do that in economic terms, we should also do it in social terms and in environmental terms. Because Thurrock already has the worst air quality in the east of England, and frankly putting another road through it will do nothing to improve that whatsoever. They need another crossing somewhere much, much closer to London. And I know the Member of Parliament for Poplar is now lobbying quite hard to have that there, and it may be time that we started joining with colleagues in London and helping them to promote what they believe they need, because clearly we do not believe that we need it. Preferred option.
Toll charges.
Yeah, totally gone, so it's free to cross. That's been the council's view, not only today, but going back.
I mean, when you said
but we live
tolls are banned, it could just mean the tolls going, but still have recognition of the numbers.
Absolutely, I think it's number one, number two. Number one option for the council is nobody has to pay. Now that was the view of the council years ago, it's still the view of the council now. But we live in the real world and we recognise that no government of any political persuasion is going to do that. So second best is that you move to something akin to the London congestion charging, where you have number plate recognition so you don't actually have to stop.
Well, I'm afraid that's never going to